What we're about to showcase to you is version 3 of SunSPOT. It's been through a number of iterations over the years. This version is definitely a big step up for the tool, and it has been enabled by an injection of funding from the Australian government. So we're very grateful for that funding. We're also very grateful for the support of all the subscribing councils that all of you have come from, and also the New South Wales government, which also supports many of the councils who are in this meeting today. Many of you will know that SunSPOT has been built by solar engineers from University of New South Wales School of Photovoltaic and Renewable Energy Engineering, and also the Australian PV Institute. So what we're going to cover today is how to use SunSPOT. Then we're going to just go a little bit into more detail with some of the new key features. And I'm going to show you the support that we've created for users, and also how and where you can access the new promotional materials that we've created for you so that you can get this out to your ratepayers. And then we're going to do a Q&A at the end. And we've started recording this now. I think we'll cover that. Thanks. So, as ever, SunSPOT will estimate the size and savings from solar and batteries for households and businesses by taking account of the electricity consumption and the cost, the roof size, the orientation, tilt and shading, local weather data, and now we've also got an input for users they can put in a budget. Previously, SunSPOT lived on a landing page on the APV website, but now we've created its very own website, which is what you should promote to your users. It's full of information that's going to help them with use, especially for first-time users. And it's also got lots of information in there for councils. So first up, this is the first page when you enter the tool, and hopefully you'll all appreciate it's much more usable. We've had a usability agency came in, a UX agency, and we did lots and lots of user testing, and it's a completely co-designed tool that is driven by users' needs and supposed to make things as simple as possible for them to access the information that they want. What we've got here, when users first come into the tool, they do some onboarding questions, and we've done fairly deep analysis of household energy consumption to distill it down into these different, the swimming pool, gas connection, air conditioning, split system, underfloor heating, so that we can really very quickly shape average profiles and give them something in that very first estimate that is useful. After the user has answered a few questions, very simple questions, they get this first estimate. It's a very high level estimate based on the very simple inputs and averages for households. So we've created a how to use SunSPOT video. It's on the website. You can also download it for use on your websites, but we'll take a look at it now. Okay, so we're going to look at some of the features that came up in that video. You'll see some repeated slides, so if you missed something in it, don't worry about it. We'll probably go through it again. Okay, one of the things we've added is a suggested system size for the user's needs. This comes up in the first estimate that you get. But along with all the other figures that SunSPOT has always delivered, the suggested system size is a new one. And when we did a lot of our user testing right at the beginning, this is something that people wanted, and particularly for commercial systems. We've based this on the payback period using estimated electricity consumption and an average tariff. So in this estimate, system size of 6 kilowatts is suggested, but you can see the plus or minuses there. Users can change the size depending on their needs or their budget, and then they can recalculate. We've also changed the estimates of the costs, which impacts also and brings about a range for the cost and also the time to pay back the system. And this is because we're reflecting the fact that there are just so many variables and factors involved in the cost of a solar system. So now we're looking at mapping panels on the roof. This is a big upgrade in the new SunSPOT. We previously, you might remember, we used to draw a shape on the roof, but now we have a beautifully UX designed ability to actually place scaled panels on the roof. So what they can do is they can find out how many panels will fit on their roof, and SunSPOT will tell them what size system that is, and then they can recalculate the estimate with that size. So this is in the premium version, which most of your users will be able to use where there has been LiDAR data available. And they previously and now still see those dots, and the red and orange dots showing where the best place for solar panels on the roof are. So this is in the LiDAR mapped premium version. So the spatial mapping LiDAR data lets SunSPOT know the slope, the orientation and the shape of the roof planes, and it can also assess any shading impacts from nearby vegetation or structures. Note that for some of you, I know that we've got some of regional councils on board today. Some of your users might find that even though there are dots around their house, doesn't actually have dots on the roof. In that case, they need to toggle this little switch, and then it switches SunSPOT to be using the non-LiDAR version. Otherwise, it gets confused and can't calculate. So these are the steps to actually put solar panels on the roof. You don't need to read them. We're going to watch a little video right now. Adding a group has turned up that little 6 panels there. Grab them, you position them, you use those white circles to orientate them. You add with these plus or minuses on both sides. If you wanted to just add one row, you add another group and then reduce it to one row. That white triangle or pointer needs to point down the slope of the plane of the roof. Anyway, that is one of the major upgrades of SunSPOT, and users are going to find that a lot more informative and fun to play with. So when we did the estimate on this house, it gave us a suggested system size of 6 kilowatts, matched with its the estimated electricity use at the house. So when we mapped it, we were able to put 22 panels on the roof, and that is 7.7 kilowatts. So at this point, we get to recalculate and find out the difference between the two estimates. So these are the new results. And then on the next slide, we can compare the two results. Have a look at the payback period. That's down the bottom. So you can see that it's increased with the larger system. So this is mapping panels in the new LiDAR-free standard version. Part of this whole new SunSPOT version 3 is that we've created a version that is available right across Australia. That means everybody with a roof in Australia can now use SunSPOT for free. For those of you councils who have regional areas, as I said, that means all of your ratepayers can use it, not just those who've been mapped with the LiDAR data. So if users don't see dots on the roof at the roof mapping step, they're not going to know either way which they could be using, but they are using the new standard version of SunSPOT. It does not require mapping with LiDAR data, and it doesn't require a council subscription. It means users in regional and rural areas can now use SunSPOT. However, the estimates of solar output are not as accurate as the premium version, and it does require more inputs. The new free version does require more inputs from the user. So when adding panels, the standard version relies on the user to determine the sunniest position. This is usually the north-facing roof area with little to no shading. You can see the north. North is always straight up on the image. Just like in the premium version, you map the same way. And you can see there where it says map solar panels to your roof, and we've got the purple highlight there. So it says how many panels you need to put on the roof to fit the suggested system size. But you can put as many as you want on or as few as you want on. Next, tell SunSPOT how steep the roof plane is. So this is in the free version. People, because SunSPOT can't read it without the LiDAR data, the slope of the roof, people need to provide some of that information themselves and apply it to their estimate. And they also need to estimate an amount of shading that might impact the roof. And then press apply to my estimate. So more instructions throughout the whole of the SunSPOT tool can be found in these Learn More sections. There's also little information icons. So users are encouraged to click into them to learn more, to understand what's happening and to get advice. And then we've also built FAQs on the website, and there's some other content on there to help them. So we've also developed the adding a battery feature. So now you're able to choose. Users can now get estimates on the potential cost, savings and payback period with 4 different size batteries added to the solar system, 6, 8, 10 and 13.5 kilowatts. And the savings the calculations are based on the batteries, using the batteries to minimise use of peak electricity from the grid. So there's just the page where you do that, and then apply to my estimates. And we've done an example here, and just for a bit of interest, you can look at those increased costs at the top. That's included now in the estimate. That's a indicative cost, and then also look what's happened to the payback periods. And so we've noted that that is longer than most of the warranty periods for most batteries. But obviously this will change if we get subsidies or if electricity prices go up. So we've looked also at commercial sites and making some improvements there. SunSPOT now has some typical load profiles for a range of business types. Users can choose the load profile, and then they can scale this by inputting the daily electricity consumption. However, we absolutely recommend sourcing the 12 months of interval data if possible and uploading this to SunSPOT, because that will provide the most accurate results. Another feature we've added is the ability for commercial users to put in their budget, and they can also input the available roof area if they know it. So just a little example, this is a shed, it's right next to a dairy. The dairy is using 120 kilowatt hours of electricity a day, and SunSPOT calculated that it would a suggested system size of 54 kilowatts, and that was 135 panels. So the user was then able to map a similar size system. In this case, they've put 138 panels on there. The best use of SunSPOT will, and the most accurate results, will come from adding more billing details and also adding more about the energy usage on the site. The best results will come from uploading meter data. When you're in the estimate, there are these 2 tabs, the electricity plan and energy usage, right there. And you click into these, and then users are able to input, copy information from their bill, and put the tariffs in. And they need to recalculate that to update. When they go into energy usage, right up the top, they're given an option to upload their smart meter data, and they can upload that there. When they upload data, it has to be NEM12 format. This is the format that the network service providers provide smart meter data in. Users have to request it from the network service provider. If they get it from an app or they get it from the retailer, it might not be in that format, and so SunSPOT won't be able to accept it. So we need 12 months of interval data. That's usually 15 or 30 minutes intervals to upload into SunSPOT, and that will produce the most accurate results. All DNSPs are required by law to supply this to electricity consumers. So, and I think they need to supply it within 10 days. So it's not the quickest turnaround, but it is the way to get the best results from SunSPOT. And what we've done to try and make this simpler is on the website, there is a section there called Help Using SunSPOT. And one of the sections we've got in there has links to all the DNSPs directly to where customers should go to request their NEM12 metadata. We even tell them what to request. That's it in the drop-down menu there. So there are two very important pages to share with your ratepayers, how to get your metadata, very interesting, very important advice in there, and even to tell how to figure out if they've got a smart meter. And then the other one is how to understand your bill so that they can extract the information and put it into SunSPOT. There's also a lot of other good support content in there, including FAQs and the how to use SunSPOT video. So it's very important when you do promote, you don't promote the link directly to the tool, that you promote the website. And this means they can get all of that supporting content. Yeah, as we said, you can click through these icons when using the tool to find out more about what's happening and what you're doing at that point. There's also in the website a lot of information for councils, and particularly for all of you who are onboarded subscribed councils, you will need to go into that section and download the SunSPOT promotional materials there for you to use in your newsletters, in your socials, and to get the video so that you can get your website set up. We also have a feedback form, and we would love to hear your feedback. SunSPOT is in a constant state of evolution, and we are always looking for improvements to make. Can you also sign up to our monthly newsletter, which will kick off in April next year? And there's a LinkedIn link that you can also follow us on LinkedIn. Now, before we sign out, we will open up the Q&A and take some questions from you all.
So we have some questions in the Q&A section now. I've just popped Kate's through first. So Kate's question was, great to see the upgrades in video. Thanks, SunSPOT team. Thank you. Is there functionality for people to plan in future EV charging? I think usually about 2 kilowatts more so like daytime charging when considering the sizing of array and battery. This may affect the payback, including for batteries if nighttime charging. I might aim this one at Mike if you're ready.
There isn't at the moment, but it is one of the things we've got on our radar. So the current government funding for development takes us through to June next year, and we've got a number of additional upgrades. We're in the process of prioritising those, but beyond that, we're looking for funding next year, and we're looking then to look at the whole electrification package. So being able to add in EVs, switching from gas to electric, hot water, cooking, that sort of thing, but not quite yet.
Great, thanks so much. All right, so next question we have, I'm just popping that one through, is from Anuj. And the question reads, often homes with several roof bases have different configuration options for installing panels. Is there a way we could see average annual generation per kilowatt for each roof base as we could in the older version?
Yes, we can. So Alison didn't show all the detail that's in the tool, but all the information that was in the old tool is available in this one. What we've done is tried to keep the initial interface really simple, but you can dig in a little bit deeper and look at the separate panel groups and look at the generation.
Okay, thanks. So we've got another question come through the Q&A feature from Mary Kate. So that question reads, can you print or save the outputs of the tool? And then also, what size are the panels in the modelling? Could there be improvements to the panel sizes by having a range to choose from?
So I'll take the second question first. At the moment we have fixed sizes, but they're different for residential and commercial. And off the top of my head, I think the residential ones are 1.7 by 1.1 meters, and they're 350 watts. And I think the commercial ones are slightly bigger, and they're physically, and they're 400 watts. Yeah, at the moment we haven't got an option for users to change that. We will kind of update it regularly as the kind of typical market size increases, and we'll look at that in the future to give people the option, but also bearing in mind we're trying to not overcomplicate the choices that we offer people as well.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that one as well. The details about panel sizes are on the tool itself. So in the Learn More section, I believe on the View System Details page, users will be able to check and see what size the panels are. So as we do update them, they'll be able to see that information. And we do also have a feature that allows users to download the outputs of the tool, that estimate system page, so they can refer back to that as well later on. So yeah, that's all implemented. Cool. All right, so we have another question from Sonia Williams. So Sonia's question reads, what made you land on a 350 watt output per panel for residential and 400 for commercial? And then the second part of the question reads, for drawing/designing larger arrays, can you separate slightly to allow for maintenance or access channels?
So first question, so we based those on a kind of survey of what was available in the market, and the commercial and the residential ones are the same density, so they're both based on 200 watts per square meter, I think it is, and they seem to be the typical values that we were looking at. So as I say, the commercial ones are a little bit bigger physically than the residential ones, and we will keep reviewing that over time. And the second question, yes, so in terms of commercial systems, so I guess there are two things in terms of spacing. One is that if you want to put, if you can do multiple rows and they'll be adjacent to each other. If you want to put in spacing between rows or between blocks, you just simply put a separate group of panels in there. The feature to allow spacing between each row of panels, which is kind of typical on rack mounted systems on a flat roof, so common for commercial systems, isn't there yet. There's a bit of ongoing development, but it's one of the first things that we're going to roll out in the new year, so that when you do a group of panels, it will automatically add that spacing in so that you're not self-shading from one row to the next.
Thanks, Mike. Don't have any other questions come through just yet, but yeah, feel free to keep them coming.
It did occur to me this morning that we might get questions about whether or not we were going to increase the price, and we're not yet, even though you're getting a far superior service. So it's all at the same price.
Cool. We've got another question from Sonia. Just pop that one through. Sonia's question reads, in our experience, all metadata requests have been via retailers. How long has it been since DNSPs have offered this in MEM12 format? So I can answer a little bit of this. I did a lot of looking into how DNSPs are sending out the information and how to access it so that we could put it on the website. The DNSPs were quite receptive and I think have a legal obligation to provide the data when requested. And it's a little bit more reliable than asking from a retailer who I contacted a few retailers who weren't necessarily sure what I was asking for. So that's why we recommend the DNSPs to ask those providers directly. Yeah, if anyone else has more to add.
Yeah, I'll just confirm that's right. DNSPs, there's one of the rules of the National Electricity Market requires DNSPs to provide customer data when they request it in a particular format, a NEM12 format. So that's the most useful for this purpose because it's in a standardized format, and a number of DNSPs actually have a web portal that allows customers to download it quite easily, or otherwise they typically have an area on their website where customers can request it, and we've provided the links to those to make it easy for customers to find it.
We do understand for users it's not the most immediate way to get the best results, but it is the way to get the best results. And certainly if you're doing a commercial building, we would encourage people to take the time to get that data.
I've got a follow-up question on that one from Sonia as well. Would end users be considered quote unquote customers by DNSPs?
Yes. So I think DNSPs are getting better at recognising that they have people connected to the end of their distribution networks. And yeah, as Anna says, that any electricity customer is considered a customer of the DNSP, and DNSPs are obliged to provide that information.
Within 10 days, I understand. Right?
I'm not sure the exact period,
not sure
but there is a time limit. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that as well, that one of the other things that we're pursuing is we're hoping to be able to become an accredited data recipient under the consumer data right, which will mean that we should be able to allow customers to directly access their own metadata, which will make it more immediate and simpler for if that customer does have smart metadata, for SunSPOT to be able to access it and use it. But it's a pretty complicated process, so we can't confirm that yet, but we're working on it. And yeah, it's actually the consumer data right. It's not fully set up yet, but we're hoping to be ready when it is, if we can.
At that point, if we were able to enable that, that means they simply put in their NMI number. Is that right? So no searching for anything, and as in when they use the Energy Made Easy site, those in the same way. Yeah, that would be really easy.
We have another question from Sonia coming through. So are solar cost estimates based on simple ladder access to roof? What happens for taller buildings that are 2 stories, 7 above?
Great question, Sonia. So at the moment we give a range of cost estimates, and the bottom of that range is based on a kind of standard and average system. The top of that range is based on a premium system for a tiled roof, because you generally pay a bit extra for tiled roofs compared to steel roofs. We don't currently include the extra cost for 2 stories. We don't currently include microinverters. I think those are the main ones, and those will be added. Those are definitely on our radar to introduce in the first half of next year, so that users can select that as an option and add that into the cost. But at the moment, the 2-story cost, the additional cost for 2 stories is like for a standard system would still put it within the range that we're offering for the kind of top end premium system, if that makes sense.
Thanks so much. Don't have any more questions in the Q&A at the moment. Just got a message.
Maybe I can just add something about PV system costs as well then. So we've actually done a lot of, well, Russell in particular has been doing a lot of work collecting and looking at a lot of different quotes, and yeah, there are a really wide range of prices that we see out there in the market, and we think that's one of the reasons why giving these indicative price ranges to people is going to be really valuable, just to give them a sense of what they should expect to pay. So yeah, we think that's going to be one of the really useful parts of this tool.
Yeah, and just to add to that, since there is just so many different variables that affect the cost of a system, you can have meter board upgrades, issues with the service mains to the property. It's more about providing a benchmark figure than the consumer can take to the installer who's trying to sell them this system and ask them to explain why this figure is so much greater if they do have additional costs for their property.
Totally. And this sort of detail is also outlined on the tool itself in the help files. So if anyone is unsure or is curious about how we kind of decide on those numbers, everything's there in the Learn More.
Look, this has been months of really hard work by the team. A lot of thought has gone into every bit and a lot of research, and we really hope that you can see what a big lift in usability and functionality and usefulness really to Australians this new version is. So we're super excited about it. We're very grateful for your time this morning, and we really hope you'll work with us to get it out into communities and help people with their solar decision making. Thank you very much for coming. I don't know if anyone on the team has anything else to say.
Thanks, Alison. That's great. I mean, we'd welcome your feedback as well. We are still tidying up a few loose ends, and we do have a bit more, another sort of short development phase. And yeah, potentially, as Mike said, we've got more ambitions in the longer term as well if we can get more funding. But yeah, so definitely welcome your feedback.
And we're very grateful for your support. Oh, we've got another question.
Sorry, just got one more pops through from Sonia there. So Sonia's question is, do the cost calculations take into account STC rate decreases and localised state rebates where offered on submission of address?
So at the moment they include STCs. They don't include any local state rebates. So we will, I don't think we are at the moment, but we will provide links on the website to what those rebates are, I think. Not sure they're there yet. Yeah. So they're based on the quote that you'd get from the installer, and then a rebate, a local state rebate you'd apply for separately.
All right, I think we've got it all wrapped up. So thank you again for your time. We look forward to hearing from you. Please do have a play around with the tool. Show it to all your families over Christmas. Have some fun. Start talking to your comms teams, talking about getting it in your newsletters, getting it out there for Christmas for all your communities. Download the materials whenever you want, and we're looking forward to hearing your feedback. Definitely do get in touch with us and fill out the form. All right, take care everybody. Have a good holiday when you get there, and thanks for coming.